For the year of 2025, I've challenged myself to play one single player game per month because I'm a multiplayer and roguelike Andy, and I want to find the magic that I was once enraptured by while gaming during my youth. Watch this video if you want to learn more about the why, but this... Wait, what? Oh! Alright, let's go. Oh, what is that? I don't fucking understand, bro. Is the first month and the first game. Welcome to Path of Exile 2. This game rocks. It is just good. It's been a while since I've played an ARPG. I think the last one I played was Minecraft Dungeons. And if this game is an F-250 with all the bells and whistles, that game is a Tonka truck. But welcome to the first game of the year, Path of Exile 2. This is an action RPG dungeon crawling loot party made by the development studio Grinding Gear Games. So I heard this game was out in early access last month, and I saw that people were like getting 25-ish to 30 hours out of just the story that we have already. This game is currently planned to have 6 acts when it comes out on full release, but for early access what they did was made the first 3 acts and then went to the end game and started polishing the end game for the early access release. This team knows their player base, and I have to respect it. 30-ish hours is the goal for these games every month, and I've been wanting to play Path of Exile 1 for a few years, and this one just came out. So I thought, what better way to ease myself into this little challenge I got going on here than to start with a game that won't require my heart and soul. I was very wrong. For those of you that want a TLDR, I'm going to give it to you. Here's the thing though. I'm going to give myself 1 breath to do it. So if you want actual details as to why I'm saying the things I'm about to say, you're going to have to come back and finish the video at some point. Okay, I'm going to just read it off of this. I'm not going to worry about looking at the camera, okay? The new player experience leaves something to be desired. The game feels good with WASD movement and on controller. The progression is good, but you need to dig to find out how to do it because of the aforementioned new player experience being rocky. Dodge roll is the best thing here, and the time sink is insane. I've heard it described as an MMO without the tedium of fetch quests and long travel times, and I completely agree. You should absolutely play it. Whew. So now that you know why I chose this game and got an abbreviated thoughts of my abbreviated thoughts little section there, what actually happened during my playthrough? Well, when you start the game, you choose a character and you send all these other poor bastards to the Shadow Realm. Then your person jumps into the ocean, which is crazy behavior for anybody, but this bitch is a stick. Once you wash up on the shore, you play the unfortunate role of witness to this guy's demise, and then we take his weapons. Sorry, buddy, you weren't using it. His last words to us were to go to Clearfell and find the miller.
Reach Clearfell. Find the miller.
We fight some things, we level up, and this was the closest I got to quitting the game through the entire first half of the game.
Skill point. Hey, skill point. Oh my god. I mean, oh my god. I fuck with skill trees, but this is the goddamn skill Amazon rainforest, bro. Oh my god, guys, I don't know if I can do this. I can't do this. What the fuck am I looking at? I mean, I've only been playing for like 20 minutes. I could probably return this, right? I could return this.
Once I decided to continue after like 10 minutes of existential dread, we found the miller, which sucks for this guy because it was like 30 feet away from him. He almost got there. We bonk him on the head, and then we go to the Clearfell encampment, which is kind of like our home base for the first act of the game. We meet 2 people here, the vendor and the story go forwarder. That's all they are. You don't need to know more than that. Killed some other things, got the second mini boss first try because I'm really that guy. Then we fought some bugs and mud scrotums. That's this guy. Take a look at him. Then we beat the Eater of Worlds, which then brings us to this guy who traps us in here, but he didn't really know that I was the Spy Kids 3 that guy, and I beat him first try. This is all copium. I just want you guys to know that because this game humbles me very quick. I promise this is like the only time during the whole playthrough that I actually do significant damage. Let's quickly take a detour from the game and the gameplay. I want to talk about how Grinding Gear Games made M on the keyboard go to the microtransaction shop rather than the map. Buddy, you are charging $30 right now, and there are hundreds of thousands of concurrent players. How much more money do you need? How much more? But during this trying time, I went to the microtransaction shop, found that they had a skin that is so far up my alley. It's so cool. It's exactly what I want. It's exactly what I like in skins. The whole galaxy thing, I rock with it. I think it's really cool. But that shit is $45. Do you know what I could do with $45? You know what? No. I'm going to let this guy say it.
$45 though? 45. There's so many things that you could do with $45. Like, I know some prostitutes you could pay 45 bucks and they'll give you a little squeegee on your nuts. Like, what the fuck is going on here?
The next boss was a clan member. I'm not kidding. I got his ass out of here, guys. I promise in between each one of these boss fights, there's like 3 hours of gameplay of me trying to figure shit out. Need I remind you of the skill tree we saw a second ago? We progress a little more, and then this chick sings away some vines like a Disney princess. What is that about? That shit does not come up again. After fighting Farouk, we go into the Cemetery of the Eternals, where this guy's family was abducted by a dictator of some sort. I don't know, Count whatever the fuck. We're in a fantasy world. His name probably has a count in it. But he's just gonna stand right here for the next 6 hours instead of doing anything until I do what he asks of me. Good old RPGs, right? But in this case, what he's telling me to do is find 2 keys, one belonging to the Praetor's consort, Asina, and the other one to the Praetor himself. I don't know what a Praetor is. I don't know if I'm saying it right. But these two play dirty because when you summon one, they summon the other to fight you alongside them. It is crazy. But these were the first boss fights in the game that I thought were actually really cool. I mean, I couldn't just hold left click and just kind of dodge roll on reaction anymore. Did I mention there's a dodge roll? But with these ones, you have to actually learn the attack patterns, the wind-ups, the timings, just like a Souls-like. It also helps that by this point in the game, I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to stick with for a build. I was going to definitely stick with the Sorceress Fire Magic. So we fight these two, get the keys, go to this dude, go through the gate, and...
Graves, Isabel, Torquil, Callum, the family of Count Lachlan of Ogham. My family! This doesn't make any sense! They're dead! Those bastard Eternals!
No.
I must make them pay! I must make them suffer!
Okay, I want you to be honest with me right now, bro. These tombs were like 30 feet away from you were standing. You could definitely see them through the gate, or better yet, like hop the gate. After you get that ass banned, you go over to the hunting grounds, which is the prettiest area in probably the whole game. I love it so much, but unfortunately, fuck this place. This place sucks. These enemies suck. But that brings me to this dude who gives you a quest to go do some shit. And this side quest, I tried to do it immediately and I was severely underleveled. This is my first time gracefully bowing out. I don't fucking understand, bro. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm sure. Fucking sure. What the fuck about this is okay? I don't understand. Anyways, we go back to the hunting grounds. We beat that, make it to the Ogham farmlands, which, by the way, the story quest for like the entirety of the game so far has been make it to Ogham village. Maybe it was the hunting grounds being so shit, but I think the Ogham farmland is probably my favorite area in the first section of the game. I like all this wheat and shit, you know, like fucking horse POV. What a horrible joke. The end of this stage, though, has the executioner. If I have to hear this dude say the guillotine drops one more fucking time, I'm gonna smash my desk into a fine powder and snort it. His voice is very cool though. I dig it. The fight's alright. It's pretty cool. So this chick who just watched her husband die 23 times in a row comes back to the camp with us. The next area is the Manor Ramparts, but I go back to Ogham Village to do some side quests for the vendor and the story lady. He wants a toolbox. She wants her loot. Fucking band kid. Back to the manor. The ramparts were all right. There was nothing crazy going on there. Shout out to my goons because inside the manor was a shit show at times. And I think this boss was optional. I don't know, but it is light work for a guy like me, you know, first try. You know? But we slowly make it downstairs to the manor and we find the guy that the chick with the dead husband told us to find.
This interloper has the power we need. Kill her, and you shall have everything I promised.
No noose this time. I'll remove your head myself!
I think not, Mad Wolf.
Now this boss I genuinely like. I think like his monologuing and voice lines is super cool, but I was getting tilted, so I circled back to do the quest for this guy now that I had leveled a little bit. So at the end of that, there's a boss fight. I unlock my spirit meter, which is really cool. Back to Geonor. So I go back to this guy. I want to talk about this fight a little bit more because it's actually really cool. It's probably my favorite fight in the game. So I didn't know it at the time, but this fight is the end of Act 1, and they definitely saved the best for last. I think this is a mark of a good boss fight. Even as I was tilting my ass off, I couldn't help but be like, fuck, this fight is so cool. During the fight, you get these voice lines between him and presumably his wife or partner or something. He's saying shit like he does everything for her. He's doing this for her, either for her or whatever she's dangling in front of his face. They're pretty vague about the specifics. Once you get his health bar down a little bit, he goes into phase 2, which is really cool because she basically tells him, hey, you're on your own. And that causes him to lose his mind.
Open the cage! Release the beast! Give me what you promised!
I think to
which causes this really cool shit to happen.
As night falls.
So when this happens, you have smaller mobs that are like mobbing you basically, right? But at the same time, he's monologuing. And the thing that I found really cool was the voice lines were the audio cues for his attack, because you can't really see where he's going to come from. But the fact that the voice lines are there to tell you when he's going to come in, so cool.
As night falls. Winter's chill. Sought the unworthy. Through an endless night, they wither and tarry. Forsaken frosts.
It's just that kind of mechanic that in its current implementation can only be done in this style of top-down ARPG. Anyway, you kill him and then you go talk to the townsfolk, and like we talked to this guy too, which I didn't mention earlier. This guy, we like revived him earlier in the story, but we found him hanging from a tree and the story lady decided that was okay. I don't know about you guys, but if I find an immortal being hanging by his neck from a tree, I'm probably gonna leave him there. I'm gonna be like, maybe he's there for a reason. Maybe that's just me though, I don't know. Anyways, he takes us east to like a trading route outpost where some fucking hyenas are being haters, but I took care of them, and in the interest of time, I'm gonna go a little bit faster here. There's a quarry, there's a mine with this chick in it. She was like the bane of my existence for a hot minute, but once you beat her, she actually becomes the vendor for a roguelike mode inside this game. Remember when I said I was doing this challenge to get away from roguelikes? I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I didn't know this was here. This is actually a mode in which you choose your ascendancy, which is kind of like a specialization for your class. But I'm not doing that shit now because it's actually dog shit. It is so bad. They have no idea what they're doing. I'll talk about it a little bit more in the review after this. But just know that it resulted in many runs doing this, where I didn't lose the run due to health. I didn't die, but I lost the run. And that is absolutely a skill issue on my end. I will wholeheartedly and fully accept that. But shout out to the warrior players who like straight up actually can't beat this. It's damn near impossible for them. If they beat this one, they're definitely not beating the Chaos Trial after this. Anyways, after that, I then had to go and do a Destiny 2 ass mission where I followed this chick around and defended her 3 times. It was also this point in the game that I realized I should be disenchanting and scrapping items. You don't really need to know that, but I just wanted the veteran players to know and cringe a little bit. Because up until this point, you know, 10 hours in at least, I have been selling every single item I have, superior and socketed items alike. Anyways, once I defend this chick, we fight the smartest enemy in the whole game because he realizes that I'm Himothy and he turns and runs like a little bitch. Imagine getting dunked on so hard and the last thing you see is the person that killed you doing this and leaving the room. So in pursuit of him, we have to go and cleanse 3 parts of the desert of corruption, which it's this thing that was from before the GNR fight. It's eating people. This part of the game has, guess what? 3 boss fights. Woo. It's funny, the first one I did when I finally beat it, I named it in my file notes as this fuck ass mammoth. The reason for that being this fight was damn near impossible for me at first, so I spent like an hour trying to beat it just to realize that it's doing lightning damage and I had negative lightning resistance somehow. Couldn't tell you to this very moment how that happened. So I was able to beat it like within 3 tries once I actually gave myself some lightning resistance, which made me feel like I was playing it on like hard mode before, so it was like a cakewalk. The other boss I fought was this like fire dude. He honestly was pretty forgettable. I remember being annoyed, but more so at the like gimmick of the boss fight, which was like in the corner of the rooms there are these fire things, and if he hits them, that entire quadrant of the room, it will burn you. So it kind of restricts your movement a little bit. So that and setting the water mommy, I mean goddess, free after the fight was really cool. Even as I'm reading this script, I can't even remember what the actual boss looked like. Oh, I also remember this room leading up to the boss fight. I don't know what I expected, but I remember screaming. I'm unfortunately I was muted, so I don't have a clip, but like, yeah, I was screaming. Then came the third boss of this section of the fight, the Colossus. And this fight was genuinely a pleasure. Everything about this room, the attacks, the looks, the aesthetics, the vibes, everything was perfect. And if I had to put money on it, this was probably my favorite fight outside of GNR. After that, we take the 3 quest items we got from killing the bosses, make a horn out of it, then we blow the horn, which like clears a sandstorm or something like that, but it clears the corruption out of the desert. Then we took the caravan northeast where we found New Yorkers with butters and puffer jackets on. Just kidding, we're still in the fucking desert. And this is where I got stuck on the final boss of the second act of the game. This is where I took the longest playing this game. This is where I spent the most time. So you get there and What's up? Hey, so I see you like purple too. You know it's the color of royalty. Anyways, made it all that way just to find out that I don't do any damage to this boss. So I, went all the way back, did some things, leveled up, came back. I ended up having to beat this stage like 6 separate times, and this stage has probably the most annoying enemies in the game for the type of build that I had. My whole shit was like AoE fire, so I would set it up in an area in like a choke point and have everybody get grilled as they go through. Well, these enemies jump over you to get behind you, so if I run up, set up all my shit, they just jump over all of it. It was so annoying. I'm glad it's over. So yeah, I had to do this like 6 times because every time I would go up there, I would get to the boss just to find out that I still didn't do enough damage. It was worth it though, because every time I got to see my wife, and playing the game with post-nut clarity is a buff in and of itself. Anyways, this dude wasn't even fun. This fight was annoying as shit. It was like bullet hell for like 30% of it. The other 70% of the time, I don't know what the fuck he's doing. Even after playing it 100 times, I don't think I could sit down and beat him again right now, even at the level my character is at, just because and over the course of the hours that I was respecking and trying to do damage, I was really trying to focus on single target damage. It wasn't until I joined my friend's Discord server for moral support while I was fighting this boss, I was very tilted.
I mean, it's still very doable.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're totally chilling.
That's why I'm like, I just
running
needed moral support.
100%.
They helped me brainstorm on different orientations to put my support gems, and then I finally beat it. It was at this point that I finally beat this boss. And I want to stress that at this time, my friends, these guys have never played Path of Exile 2. This wasn't a situation where I called in my older brother to beat the boss for me. They were just helping me throw random shit at the wall to see what worked. So, 10 grading hours of me trying to beat this boss. I beat him. I finally get to move on and actually progress through the story, just to resume to get stomped into the ground for another 3 hours. This is when I decided to call it quits. Let's talk about that. I want to preface my review of this game by saying this. I feel okay making a review based on the amount of game we have here, even though I haven't finished it, because of its state. We don't even have the full game yet. So what's the harm in talking about it when my experience, unfinished as it is just a different amount of unfinished as yours? That said, where I can, I'm going to try to refrain from talking too much about the story and endgame, as they are things that I've not been able to see yet. I'm currently about halfway through Act 2 on a monk that I made shortly after finishing every other section of this video, and I will probably be taking that all the way through to endgame as opposed to the sorceress that you just spent the last 20 minutes watching. This is because my sorceress is, and always was, fairly underpowered through the entirety of what I played. Such are the woes of trying to play a game such as this for the first time with no prior knowledge of the franchise, systems, or scaling, all while also playing solo self-found and not following a build guide. The more seasoned Path of Exile players know that everything I just said is just a recipe for a bad playthrough, and understand that it's probably the cause for dropping the game altogether for many players. Out of curiosity, I spent some time this month really trying to understand where this game is coming from. I watched many YouTube videos, read many guides, and scoured Reddit for more time than I care to admit. One of the things I walked away from all of this with is that this series is not good for new players. Every single beginner guide video I watched for Path of Exile 1 had heavy emphasis on the make sure to follow a build guide aspect of it. Therefore, I levy that as my first criticism. To be completely clear, I don't think that every game needs to be able to exist within itself, completely isolated from the existence of the internet. I do not think that this game should. I don't think that this genre should. I don't think that any game should, unless the devs are absolutely 100% sure of it and are dedicated to it, a la God of War. Yes, I just compared a completely finished, infinite budget and manpower game to an early access indie game, but I want to stress that I mean that as a compliment. It is a testament to what Grinding Gear Games has been able to do when the feelings that they have been able to invoke in me make me think of other games that are not only outside of its genre, but way above its pay grade. I do think that Grinding Gear Games is punching up here, and not just up, way up. That said, my first experience with the game being as rough as it was at times made me fall in love with it, but also exposed this major flaw. Over-reliance and incubation of an initial experience can turn the beginning of the game into a lackluster teaching ground. What I mean is, while they nail the first impression better than any other ARPG I've ever played, by skipping over teaching opportunities to make that first impression good, you make longer lasting issues. So much so that you need to look elsewhere to actually learn anything about the systems that are afforded to you. It is very obvious to me that Grinding Gear Games have a near impossibly accurate understanding of what their players want from their games. Because of that, they made many very in-depth and versatile systems that allow players to build, experiment, and eventually fall in love with different characters and abilities in the game. They do all of this and do the bare minimum explaining any of it to you. Woes of early access, I'm assuming, but I would love to see some sort of help menu that explains things like crafting, building, and what you should actually be trying to change versus upgrade for your character. I'm 50 hours into the game by this point, and I had a friend ask me if weapon levels actually matter, and I couldn't tell him because I just don't know. He then asked me how I didn't know 50 hours in, and the best answer I could conjure up is, the game never told me, just Google it. I'm human, and I could have missed it, and if I did, I think this criticism stands all the same, as I've spent ample time staring at my skills and gear, and that never made it explicitly clear either. I don't want my review to have an overly negative connotation, because I genuinely believe that I have accidentally stumbled onto the definitive ARPG for probably the next 10 years. Yes, I think of it that highly. There are aspects of my experience that make me sour to the idea of continuing it, but there are things in this game that are so good that I can't wait to get back to playing it as soon as I'm done recording this. For example, I was genuinely getting giddy at the idea of fighting Gianor again when I got back to the manor on my monk. To an adjacent but not irrelevant point, enemy density and variety are insanely good. The last game I played that made me think of that was Lies of P, another S-tier game in its own right. I don't think Grinding Gear Games has made it public just how many enemies there are in the game as of right now, but it's easily hundreds, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was in the 4 digits somewhere. The game feels fun and fresh no matter what stage you're on because there aren't 2 stages with the exact same enemies. If you don't like the enemies on one stage, you can rest assured knowing that in 20 minutes when you're on the next one, you won't have to deal with those enemies anymore. Now, I'd like to use the idea of enemy variety as a jumping off point to go one step further and highlight one of the biggest factors that make this game as near perfect as it is. A pitfall that ARPGs fall into too often is in its pursuit of fun. To make the player feel more powerful, they make you more powerful, which in turn makes the game devolve into a mindless screen clearing simulator that you toil away on while you watch something on your second monitor. Not a con, some people really genuinely enjoy that type of game. In fact, a lot of farming and MMOs boast that style of gameplay as well. Some people just enjoy existing in a functioning world that they don't have to dedicate all of their brain into, whether they want to pay more attention to something else or maybe they just got off a 12-hour work shift and they don't have any more brain to give. I think it is absolutely okay to want to idly progress towards something in your free time. That said, this is not me, and I think this is where Grinding Gear Games hit the nail on the head. The word I want to hammer home here is engaging. Like I said before, this is an inherent effect of the enemies being so varied, but it's not just that. This also extends to other sweeping design decisions. In a video game, devs have to choose how they want you to interact with the world around you. What tools are they going to give the player to be able to do so in a way that feels equally engaging and rewarding? For example, in Minecraft, you have a few inherent tools to the game, namely being moving through the world, destroying blocks, and placing blocks. When you play the game and settle down somewhere, there are plenty of things that you can do to engage with the world. Go out and mine diamonds, defend your house from raiders, go fishing. The rewarding aspect of Minecraft comes in just as many different ways. Through engaging with the game, you get the initial reward of, say, diamond armor, for example, but the late set reward is walking past where that vein once was and realizing how far you've come since then. How much have you terraformed the world? There are tangible effects to your present that this world will never not be able to see. In Path of Exile, the way you engage with the game is different, but you still get rewarded all the same. I bring up all of that to say this. The dodge roll being introduced and how Grinding Gear Games has balanced the entire game around it makes it so you can't just turn off your brain completely. You are forced to engage with enemies in ways that require timing and skill to execute. On the flip side of that, I've seen some of those late game builds and they have crazy AoE and screen clearing potential. But screen clearing doesn't matter once you enter that boss room. I have to be paying attention and engage with the boss in a way that only Souls-likes have made me do in the past. This satisfaction makes PoE 2's movement the definitive way to do it in my opinion. No other top-down game that I play is going to feel as good as this for a long time. At the crux of what I want to say here is this. I will take engaging gameplay over everything else, and this game strikes the perfect balance. Not engaging enough, and you get MMO farming. Too engaging, you get something like League of Legends, where you feel like your enjoyment of it is directly correlated to how much of yourself you can give to it, causing you to feel forced to fire on all cylinders all the time. Both have their audiences. I'm somewhere in the middle, right next to Path of Exile 2. If it wasn't obvious so far, I find the boss fights to be the best part of the game. I get excited at the very idea that I haven't seen all of them and still have more to experience. Not just because of the attacks or designs, but also because of the atmosphere. Every non-mini boss fight in the game has an entire stage that seems specifically designed to perfectly be the home of the boss. These stages are masterclasses in atmospheric storytelling and artistic design. It is clear to me that the artists and designers for this game are having a field day with this new engine and are working together very closely. Some of the areas that stick out to me are the ones that lead up to the Colossus and the Executioner. As you walk through Ogum Village, you can't help but wonder what could have caused all this havoc. Just to find out that the boss you visualized in your head wasn't far off, the only difference being is that it was taken to 11 in its visual flair and voice acting. Not to mention that his introduction to us directly is just as he is beheading somebody right in front of his wife, cementing in our minds that this is not a good guy. The stage leading up to and the Colossus itself also being just as good in different ways. The stage feels like you're walking up an impossibly large staircase, revealing not just a boss waiting for you at the top, but the reveal that you wouldn't have stood a chance if you didn't ascend to its level. My mouth dropped the first time I saw it walking up to the platform we'd be fighting on, making it exist not only as an amazing set piece, but a very cool boss, and watching it flip from one to the other was a feeling that was unique to it during my playthrough. It has been a long time since I have had a game that surprised me with the sheer quality of these things, while also being able to keep it up so consistently throughout the entire game. There isn't a point where the level of quality in this regard falters. That's about all I want to say about this game right now, as we don't have the full story and I'm not well versed in the endgame mechanics. As for me not being able to finish the game, it was less of me bowing out for skill reasons, but more due to time reasons. I wanted to get this video out by the end of the month, and so realistically I needed to switch all of my free time from playing to writing and editing. With that in mind, I don't think it would be worth my time to make a 4-minute addendum video to this talking about the stuff I missed, so I will do this instead. At the end of the year, I will make a bigger video tying up all the loose ends for all of the games I play this year. At least I assume this won't be the only time this will happen, where I have more to say beyond my initial weeks with the game. Time is a fickle mistress and I can't get enough. Anyway, I hope you got a couple laughs and I hope you give this game a try. I'll see you in the next month when we will be looking at Black Myth Wukong. Have a good one.
Wasted